Hello everyone and welcome back. Today on the Jeranism Files, we're going to hear some more babbling about Antarctica. I should probably apologize for that. Anyway, here we go.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
Ooh, did anyone notice what was missing there? If not, go back and watch that intro again. Okay, what's missing is that wonderful catchphrase, open your mind, there's truth inside, which made no sense. Apparently he listened to us when we told him it was stupid.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism, back with another video for you today. This video should separate the men from the fanboys, the wheat from the chaff, and the upright from the upside down. When shown the evidence, well, first you should verify it, always do your own research so you reach your own conclusions. But once you see that what I'm showing you is the truth, I think you have two choices. First, you can admit that there are some serious problems and then join in this fight for truth, exposing the liars and spreading the word and trying to end this time of deception. Or two, you can stay asleep, write some hateful comment. This way you feel better about that lie you're living, continue fighting on behalf of the liars, doing their dirty work, and in the process continue to hold back humanity, while we all continue to be scammed by those whose goal is to deceive and dumb down each and every one of us until not a single rational or thinking human being remains.
Let me translate that for you. You should do your own research, but more importantly, accept without question all the innuendo and unfounded assertion I'm about to pour forth out of my mouth.
The globe is in trouble, because once that alarm goes off, and you wipe away the gunk from your eyes, and finally, you can see the truth, there's no going back. You can't unsee the truth. You can't reapply the grogginess and the gunk. You're awake. And while you still might have to decide what to wear and what route to take to work, one thing you do know is that you can't go back to sleep. So what is it that you will know or realize by the end of this video? Well, you should realize that Antarctica is not what we've been told. So let's get it on with the evidence.
Oh, here we go. This should be interesting. So we all know Jeranism has a very liberal view of what is and is not evidence.
Now think, for some pretend second here, that we're on a ball in the endless space, spinning on an axis.
Okay, so for a pretend second, whatever that might be, we're supposed to pretend that things are as they are. All right, let's pretend that.
Such place would have two very interesting locations, a North Pole and a South Pole. The North Pole is pretty well documented, and there may be more to find there, but the place that we're going to discuss today is the southern continent, the South Pole.
The South Pole is not a continent. The continent you're talking about is called Antarctica.
The Antarctic Treaty prevents countries from laying claim, prevents any kind of military action, and prevents you and I from going and taking a look.
There are not rules to prevent you and I from going and taking a look. This is more of the patented Jeranism dishonesty. There are rules to protect the environment and wildlife of Antarctica. That is what the Antarctic Treaty is for. I will include a link in the description that will take you to the full text of the Antarctic Treaty, if you'd like to read it.
Luckily, we can review videos and webcam footage to get an idea of what exactly is going on down there. Now, let's say we are trying to prove the globe or trying to prove it's flat. Should be very, very easy, right? I mean, on a globe, we would have a 24-hour sun in the southern summer. That means that the sun would circle the continent. That's quite different from the flat Earth model where the sun circles the entire Earth from above, and since Antarctica is around the outside, well, that doesn't include a circling sun, at least not around you at the bottom continent. Okay, let me show you what the difference between the two options would be. First, we're here at Neve.com, and the link is in the description if you want to check this out. And for someone at the pole, this is what we should see. I'm in Antarctica. It's December 19th. And we're going to start moving the clock here ahead just hour by hour to see what the sun does, or should do on a globe. We're at midnight here, so we're pumping ahead 2, 3, 4 o'clock. And you'll see the sun just does a 360 around the southern continent, which should be really evident and great proof of the globe. Show a couple video camera feeds or webcam feeds of that sun doing exactly that, and shadows making a 360-degree turn. And there's your proof, flat Earth dead in the water. So here we have another globe perspective. The sun standing still there on the left, and the bottom of the bogus ball.
Oh, you clever bastard, you slipped in the word bogus.
Would be rotating clockwise, causing the sun to shine 24 hours a day on the South Pole, which is vastly different than if we are looking at a flat Earth. Whereas a flat Earth with the sun making the trek daily around the Earth.
Oh yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Objects do not like to move in curves. Objects like to move in straight lines. It's just something they like to do. What exactly, please tell us, keeps the sun moving in a circular path in the flat Earth model? We'll wait. I changed my mind. We're not going to wait. Every time we ask this question, they just start talking about something different.
And so they would see something a little bit more like this image, which shows you exactly what I believe we are seeing.
Oh, okay. So, no doubt now you're going to show us a video of an observer at a specific location in the South Pole, looking at the sun move in a way that you just described. That would settle everything. I'm sure that's exactly what you're about to do, isn't it?
On the top there, I put a little view of what it would look like from Antarctica, and you can see the sun starting in the upper right and traveling to the left and heading out towards the northwest. Okay, so we now understand what we should see if the globe were the case. If the sun actually circles the southern continent and the Earth was a globe, then this should be absolutely easy to prove, right? There would be a ton of evidence of this easy-to-prove fact. Isn't that right? We should have video footage in abundance of the sun circling the continent, causing the shadows to do 360-degree turns around an item.
Foreshadowing. He spends a great deal of time talking about what one would observe the sun to be doing in either of the two scenarios he just described. He even draws diagrams showing what one would observe the sun to be doing in either of the two scenarios. And so, that being the case, let's go look at some shadows.
I hope you agree with me. If you're capable of using your mind, and that since video recording has been around, that there is no reason to not have numerous examples of this so-called 24-hour sun. So let's take a look and see what we find. First up, a South Pole video, a 24-hour time-lapse. Oh good, 360-degree shadows. Let's watch. Here it comes. Alright, so here we are at the South Pole. No way of faking this video, huh? But let's watch anyway and see. So we have some flags starting around 9 o'clock, heading towards 6 o'clock, and then they'll be heading up from 6 towards 3. Watch the tracks there in front of these small flags. Just keep an eye on those tracks here in a second and make sure you note where they're at. And we'll see that the front flags are rotating around almost to 3 o'clock now. The back flags look a little bit questionable, if they are even moving in a circle. And so now we're at 3 o'clock, so we're halfway there. We'll be heading towards 12 o'clock, but oops, here comes some bad weather. And what was that? They just took the flags.
Yep, they took the flags. What's your point? Were you observing what the shadows were doing while the flags were still there? This was really a pointless video for you to show anyway. It certainly does nothing to prove your flat Earth model. In a flat Earth model, you would see the shadows move in one direction, and then they would, of course, if the sun is always above the horizon, have to move back in the opposite direction, making an arc in one direction first, then back in the other. If the sun were moving in a circular path in front of the observer, the sun would never go behind the observer in the flat Earth scenario if he remained stationary. But as usual, you spend no time proving your own assertions, I guess because there is no proof, and merely pick at small anomalies in demonstrations of, well, we'll just call it reality. You know, with all that talk about what an observer would witness the sun doing, I really expected you were going to show us a video of, I don't know, what the sun would be doing. Something like this one. Yeah, something like that. Something that demonstrates exactly what one would see in a spherical Earth model. Guess not, huh? Alright, let's see what else you got.
Alright, let's move on. Let's check some webcam footage. Well, here we are, folks. 90 degrees south, Amundsen Scott South Pole Base and Station. And here we have a ceremonial marker erected by everyone's favorite traitors to humanity, the Freemasons. Can we give them a round of applause? Now, settle down. Come on, they're just like us. Only dirtbags.
Alright, so I guess even though we're talking specifically about the South Pole, you did have to wedge in some conspiracy crap to satisfy your more hardcore tinfoilers.
Alright, so here we go. We're looking at this webcam footage. I'll leave the link in the description. We're looking from February 2012 all the way to April 2014. Started at this one here, and let's watch the shadow as it does its 360, proving the globe. Or maybe not. We can watch the shadows on all these webcam videos, and we can see that never do the shadows complete a 360-degree turn. In fact, never is there a video of an entire day.
He's right. There's never a video of an entire day. I mean, except for the video of an entire day I just showed him.
We could look up here and see at the time that it will go through and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, then it will skip to 10 for no reason. Remember, these are the webcam videos supposedly for the purpose of showing us the 24-hour sun at the South Pole. And we can see that the sun goes by the horizon there, right to left. But does the sun go behind us?
Well, if we're to take the video you yourself are putting forth as any kind of evidence of anything, yes. Did you look at the video you put up? Look at the shadow of the flag. Did you notice the shadow of the flag projects forward, away from you, which means that the light source, in this case the sun, would be behind you.
You may also notice that these shadows start long then become short in the middle, and then go long again, which would be the case on a flat Earth map where the sun is coming from your northeast and far away, which would cause a long shadow. As it passes the horizon, it would be even with you and cause a short shadow, and as it leaves, heading off to your northwest, it would again cause a long shadow.
Did you even watch the video that you're talking about now? The short or nearly non-existent shadow occurs when the light from the sun is moving collinear or parallel to the ridge of snow that you're talking about there. The long shadow is when the light source, or the sun, has rays that are coming at a 90-degree angle or perpendicular to the line of the ridge. You really should watch the videos before commenting on them.
But one thing should be evident, that these are all edited and cut. So again, you can watch the sun as it comes from your northeast, across the horizon, and then takes off to the northwest. The sun does not go behind us, as would be required in a 360-degree sun path around the southern continent.
Except, of course, as demonstrated by the 24-hour time-lapse video that I have shown, and the Shadow of the Flag video that Jeranism has shown. Yeah, other than that, there's really no... You're right, there's no evidence.
Clearly, this shows us, if anything, that trickery is afoot. And this is not just one of the months, this is not just 2 of the months, it's not just 5 of the months. This is every month that they have a webcam video for. They have edited and cut out part of the day.
So maybe look for time-lapse videos that are not cut? Or would that be too intellectually honest? We don't do that sort of thing.
And these are during the main months, which are January, December, and November, the southern summer. In this video, let's watch this green flag down below. You'll see it starting around maybe 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rotates around to about 2 o'clock, and then resets. Rotate around, reset. This is obviously a lie. This is obviously not what's going on. Why don't we get to see the sun do a 360-degree turn around the southern continent?
So you're expecting that they would have made a video in the past specifically to satisfy your requirements before you've actually made the requirements. Wouldn't it make more sense to go look for a video that is more closely matched to your requirements? And by the way, if you can't find a video that meets your requirements for a view of a 24-hour day, I'll help you out a little bit if you can't find one. There's one earlier in this very video.
Now remember, this would be pretty good evidence and proof of the globe, because it doesn't work on a flat Earth to see the sun go around the southern continent. However, on a globe, it is something that should be really evident.
Oh, now you're not even trying. Now I don't even have to go look for evidence. The video you just showed is evidence. Did you notice that the moving shadow covers an arc greater than 180 degrees? Did you notice that? In the model of the flat Earth you describe, where the Earth is sort of flat and the sun is sort of circling overhead in front of you, it is impossible for a shadow to make an arc of even approaching 180 degrees, much less exceed it. So the video you just showed demonstrates that your assertion is not possible.
And should be seen in every single summer video from the South Pole. But again, watch the flag. It'll start around 8 o'clock, rotate around until it gets to 2, and then reset and start over. This should be a huge eye-opener. Should be something that screams to you, fraud, fake, set up, contrived. This is not what we would see if the sun went around the southern continent.
It's exactly what we'd expect to see in such a case. This is even more evident when we compare it to your drawings that you made earlier, that showed what we would expect to see in the case that it was not a continent, and we did in fact have a flat Earth with a sun circling overhead.
So now let's think. If the globe requires a certain phenomenon, and it is required for 6 months of the year, and every single year, what sense would it make if we never get to see that phenomenon?
But we do get to see that phenomenon. It's just the videos you have chosen are not particularly good at showing that phenomenon.
Use your head here. What would that mean? To me, it means that it simply isn't the truth.
Odd that it should bother me so much hearing you even use the word truth.
That it isn't the case. We don't see what we're supposed to see. So what else are we supposed to surmise besides that what we're told is not the truth?
All right, enough of what we're told is not the truth. How about you provide some evidence for your assertions, demonstrating that they are truth? But you don't do that, do you?
We could look up here and watch the time, and you'll see we're at January 14th, and the time goes 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 21, 22, 23, 24, 1, 2, 3, 10, 11. So, watch the times. Again, the link to these webcam time-lapse videos is in the description. You can go watch them all yourself and see that you have been terribly fooled. Now, if we watch these shadows here on this purple flag, you'll see what I'm talking about the shadow starting out extremely long, getting extremely small, and then getting extremely long again, which again makes no sense on a globe model, makes all the sense on a flat Earth model.
The shadows would stay the same length all the way around, only at the southern pole, only at the exact point where the axis of the Earth's rotation meets the surface of the Earth.
So I would love it if somebody, anybody, would tell me what reason could they possibly have for editing these webcam time-lapse videos in such a manner.
How about they are not in your employ, and they did not feel obligated to produce any sort of video that met requirements that you had not yet made? I'm sure that the entire installation was not put up, constructed, and maintained specifically to answer silly questions by the ridiculous flat Earth community. I don't think that's why they built it. So you're pointing out that they don't take into account accommodating flat earther discussions is ludicrous.
Why not show us one complete day where the shadow simply does a complete circle?
Why don't you rewind and watch the video that I included in this video that shows a complete day of the sun's movement, not the shadows, since that's what you originally started talking about, what the sun would do and the sun's movements. Why must we abstract it to watching only shadows? Why aren't you looking into watching what the sun does? Oh, wait a minute, that would be intellectually honest, and I think, yeah, we covered that earlier. You don't do that.
In fact, they should be able to show us probably at the very minimum 2 months straight. That's 60 days or more, where the sun does nothing but circle the southern continent.
I'm sure as soon as you're willing to employ them, they'd be more than happy to do that for you. Until then, maybe you should do your own research, since you're the one making outlandish assertions. It kind of falls upon you to provide evidence, but as we've said repeatedly, you don't provide evidence for what you say, you just look for minor anomalies to pick on in things that other people say.
In fact, it's supposed to be more. But at the very least, this is at Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. There should be non-stop continuous shadows circling these flags. But is that what we get? Or do we get cut up and contrived fake webcam footages?
Okay, there's an assertion without evidence. You have no evidence that they are fake videos. As to why they're cut up, I would not know why that would be. There are many possible reasons. Remember, this is an adverse environment we're talking about. There could be equipment failures, interruptions in video feed. We do not know. But we do not know is not evidence for fraud.
Or at least edited. This is just a quick diagram in case you don't quite understand what I'm saying about the shadows changing from long to short to long. If you think of the sun starting in your upper right here, its shadow would cause a long shadow of the stick that you see on the left. And as the sun moves to the left, when it's in the middle there, it would cause a short shadow, which is right in front of us on the bottom. And as it continues off to the northwest, which is on your upper left, that sun would cause a long shadow on the right, on the bottom right, and that's what I'm talking about when I say that the shadows grow from long to short to long.
Already told you, the shadows would remain the same length only exactly at the geographic South Pole, and only if the flagpole in question were perfectly vertical. And by the way, in your little drawing there, in your flat Earth model, the sun would be moving in a circle in front of you, so from your viewing point, you'd see it move left to right and then right to left as you're looking edge on at the circle it's moving in. So the shadow, in addition to growing longer and shorter and longer again, would also move backwards. Now, you've used this same video throughout your entire video to make your point. Where is the section of this video that you've chosen to use that shows the shadow moving back in the opposite direction, which it would if the sun were moving in a circular path in front of the observer?
So, I emailed the head of the Australian Antarctic Division there, and she wrote back and basically said that the webcams at their Antarctic stations are subject to very limited internet connections, and frequent interruptions and dropouts are commonplace as the outages due to weather are extreme. Very slow bandwidth means we are unable to have constant streaming video. The time lapses you see on our site are stitched together from photos generated every 15 minutes, and basically saying that there'd be no way that they could have data from a whole entire day.
Okay, sounds like an honest, straightforward answer, very clear, and describes a situation that is perfectly believable. Now, if history is any indicator, our good friend Jeranism is going to criticize that response in some way. Let's see, shall we?
Just taking a look at Mawson Station's current time-lapse, for example, the images are being recorded overnight, and nothing appears to be missing. If you do notice anything absent on any of our webcams, please let us know the specifics so we can investigate any potential faults, or even maybe restore images where possible. So I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Why don't you have complete day's videos?
She just explained why. You read the email out loud to us. What's the confusing part?
You're cutting them yourself. So I wrote back, and she responded with, "Hi, Jaren, I've spoken to our web manager, who was not available earlier. He let me know that some frames are actually missing by design. Because the webcams were set up so long ago, he had forgotten about a script he had written to omit frames that are mostly all black to save on space, bandwidth, and overall quality of the video. Chunks of time with just black screens are a bit of a waste," he said, "that if there is any reasonable light source in the image, then the image would not be omitted, and that the missing frames are based only on the amount of light in the image. Thanks for your email. We will now add this to the FAQ for future webcam visitors." And if you can't tell, this is complete and total horseshit.
I'd be very interested to hear how you came to that conclusion.
Because what we were just looking at was the summer months when there is no night. It's supposed to be 24 hours of sun going around. Why are those images omitted?
Again, not evidence for fraud. I can't say for sure, but I would hypothesize that if an all-dark image is a waste of space, an all-white image might also be a waste of space and no reason to store since it conveys no information and has no value. It is possible that those are excluded as well. But we won't look at that. We'll just jump right to the fraud conclusion. Because that's intellectually honest, right, Jeranism?
So I said, Jen, I still think you aren't quite understanding what I'm saying. If you have time-lapse webcam footage from the Amundsen Scott base, then why is there no 24-hour sun video? You guys have cut and edited every single video. Why? It makes no sense with your answers below about black screens. Please explain. For example, watch all videos for November, December, January 2011, 2012, 2013. And the most recent email, which came earlier this week, said, Hi Jaron, the Amundsen Scott Station is an American facility, and for all inquiries regarding their webcam footage, you need to contact them. The information and explanation that Jen provided below still applies to ours. Kind regards, Denise. So I have emailed all the people at the NOAA and the NSF, and we were waiting to see if they've got anything new to say besides just the same nonsense responses.
So you got your answer. It's not an answer you wanted to hear, so you decided to bother some other agencies that are usually busy doing science, and it's your opinion they should stop doing science and give you a detailed explanation to disprove your wild assertions. That's what you think. These folks that we fund with our tax dollars, which I don't mind paying the taxes for that. I like science. I'm glad it's going on. You think they should stop doing that to answer your wild accusations. I don't think they're going to do that, and I don't think they should.
So again, I've sped up this camera footage just a little bit to get you some more views of these time-lapse footages, but it's all much of the same. You'll see shadows going halfway around and then resetting. You can watch the time in every single video to see that never is a whole day played. Sometimes it actually appears that the shadow comes very close to doing some sort of a 360-degree turn, but regardless, you can look at the time and see that at minimum, 8 to 10 hours is cut out of every video.
But the fact that it exceeds, or actually even approaches, 180 degrees would disprove your assertions, wouldn't it? Maybe you should go back to your drawings and do a little geometry and figure that one out. But from what you said so far, you don't make a very good case that there's fraud going on in these webcams, but you make an excellent case that there's fraud going on in the flat earth community.
So how could the shadow even be coming close to doing a 360 if you're cutting out a third or more of the day? Again, this is good evidence here. If you watch the purple flag start out very long, then it gets short as it goes in front of you, and then becomes long as it resets and starts over. So as I said, even if you watch that little igloo on the left, it may look really close to a 360-degree turn, but by looking at the time, 10 hours are cut out of that day. That just tells me that these have been edited. So, these are not accurate portrayals of reality.
Like you'd know reality if it bit you on the ass. Anyway, there's no reason to make all of you sit through the repetition. I cannot make people sit through repetition of, oh, look, here's a view of the same thing. Here's me saying the same thing. Here's a view of the same thing. Here's me saying the same thing. No, repetition does not make truth anyway. If you're a glutton for punishment and you really want to hear the repetition, you know where you can find Jeranism's original video. Oh, look, as luck would have it, Jeranism has chosen to make references to the same video that I had included earlier.
Here's a video someone sent me. I don't want to use it for copyright reasons, so I have a link in the description below, and I'll point out 3 things for you to watch when watching this video. I'm sure you've actually seen this video before, the one with the watch in the lower left-hand corner. But take a look first at the shadows, or the lack thereof, of these mountains. Then look at the shadows of these poles or sticks off in the distance. And lastly, look at the shadow of this huge mountain. And finally, watch the sun rays that come from this sun and tell me this is reality.
I've watched it. This is reality.
Now, someone is clearly playing stupid here, folks. We're told and taught as youngsters that Antarctica is a continent on the globe bottom, and we've just looked at tons of time-lapse footage, and in every single video, someone has cut out and removed the one damn thing anyone would want to see.
You have no evidence that there was manual editing done. Further, you were given a full explanation as to what causes the missing areas that you are so concerned about.
Can anyone explain this? Can anyone explain this lack of evidence?
There's no lack of evidence. You chose the video that you used. That video perhaps did not do the best job of confirming a spherical Earth. I would imagine that was not their intent. But even if someone could explain it to you, you would do what you always do. Either claim that it makes no sense, deny anything that's said, or just start talking about something different.
Does it make any sense at all? Any at all? Does it? The sphere with a South Pole makes no sense, does it?
Guess I called it.
A plane doesn't dip for the curvature, does it?
No, a plane maintains a constant altitude as determined by the lift provided by the air over the wings, counteracting the force of gravity that would tend to pull it down. Same amount of lift against a constant of gravity means the plane stays at the same altitude around a spherical Earth. No, they don't have to constantly dip the nose down. The same amount of force produced upwards, counteracting the unchanging force downwards, produces a straight and level flight. Now, straight and level flight, as a term, sounds misleading and lends itself to your, oh, if you kept going straight, you'd fly into space. No, you wouldn't. If the same amount of upward force is applied, you stay at the same altitude. That's how it works. It's not hard.
It's concrete. The globe model has no truth, does it?
Oh my, apparently we've entered the part of his video where it's random babble on as many topics as we could wedge into a short period of time, so that if anyone does doubt any of the foolishness that came prior, we can confuse them by 180ing them enough that perhaps they'll forget.
So anyway, anyone got any good ideas of what to do with this globe model?
I do. Why don't you learn about it? And furthermore, why don't you learn that the various hypotheses and theories of a spherical Earth are not mutually exclusive and often contradictory as the multitude of rationalizations for a flat Earth are? Yeah, that's what I'd suggest. How's that?
Get him a body bag! Yeah! All right. Peace.
I totally agree. Get him a body bag.
Ooh, this cleverness. No one warned me there was going to be cleverness in this video.
It's over. He's done. He's got nothing left.
Okay, what the hell was that example of poor editing?
You stay focused.
Okay, wasn't this the fellow who was concerned about copyright infringement? I guess he's admitting that his videos are not for educational purposes.
Whoa. Miyagi's right. Gotta stay focused. I mean, sure, the globe is having issues, but so many people think of it as fact, simply because someone told them.
Damn it, he's right. It is just because someone told me. Oh yeah, that and the mountains of evidence. And no contradicting evidence. But aside from that, it's just because someone told me. Ass.
No time-lapse footage of the sun doing 360 degrees around the southern continent.
Liar. Showed you one. It's the one you referred to. You know, the one you didn't want to include in your video.
But it's still believed as fact.
Yeah, facts are funny that way.
Alright, staying focused. The Freemasons live by a slogan, nothing is true, everything is permitted.
Okay, sun's motion, sun's motion, sun's motion, staying focused. Freemasons!
So that they can keep us all in the dark regarding our true potential.
Our true potential, you say? You mean like venturing into space, off of this planet, maybe colonizing other planets, doing research in space, things of that sort, all of which are dependent upon the very idea you're objecting to? So, advancing the human condition, you equate to Holding us back. I'm sorry. I can't make the association.
And one of their very best tools is the southern continent of Antarctica. They used the Freemason Richard Byrd to push the lie. They erected the geographical South Pole as a ritual. Byrd had taken many trips to the North and South Pole, and in case you didn't know, his brother, Harry Byrd, was a governor and a senator, and did all of this work from 1916 to 1965. Both of them born to one of the wealthiest families in Virginia, and a member of the Federal Lodge No. 1 in Washington, D.C., these men will lie for each other and go to bat for each other, and all of them will back each other no matter what.
Any evidence of these lies? No? All right, moving on.
In fact, all of Byrd's travels were financed by John D. Rockefeller. Now, who knows how deep Richard Byrd goes in all this, and exactly to what depth he was involved. He died, or was killed, not too long after Operation Deep Freeze, and his only son, Richard Byrd Jr., was found dead in a warehouse almost a month after his family had put him on a train.
Ooh, you folks love a good conspiracy, don't you? Throw a little conspiracy talk in there. I'm sure all of you will be able to accept just about all of the garbage you've spewed up to this point. As long as they get to believe that there's a conspiracy going on, and they're in on the knowledge, they'll just accept anything you say.
Every Mason will tell you that the art of Freemasonry is a glorious example of a most shining and noble morality, yet it's all kept a secret. They tell the lies that keep the world in argument.
Evidence, please.
Now, for some evidence of this Freemason trickery, look no further than the current Guinness record holder for the North-South surface navigation, Sir Rand Fiennes. You can click here for an entire video showing that there is no north-south circumnavigation.
Well, this article on the New York Times seems to imply that there was. Article was written on the occasion of Charles Burton's death, and seems to indicate that he did in fact participate in one. Let me guess, New York Times, Freemasons, right?
And after you've watched this video and that video, if you still believe in the model we were all taught, well, then no evidence exists that will ever get you away from the lie that you love so much.
What are you talking about? No evidence has been produced so far.
Of course you know about Freemason Robert Falcon Scott. Of course this is where we get the name of Amundsen Scott from. You've also heard of the Ross Sea, I presume, which was named after yet another Freemason, Sir James Clark Ross. How about Sir Edward Hillary? Yes, another Freemason, member of the first expedition to cross Antarctica and reach the South Pole by land, doing so from 1955 to 1958. Or we can look at Elisha Kane, who was just another Freemason, also an explorer that is famous enough to have a crater on the moon named after him, and he did his journeys in 1853.
All right, well, it seems you're not in denial anymore. You did admit that he did his journeys, so good. Good, I'm glad you're coming around. Nice to hear. Welcome to reality.
Of course, in 1909, Robert E. Peary reached the North Pole, and in 1911, Roald Amundsen placed the flag at the South Pole.
Alrighty, it's really starting to sound like you're coming along.
Yes, Peary and Amundsen were both Freemasons. And of course, you have another Mason, Sir Ernest Henry Shackleton, initiated in Navy Lodge number 2612 in 1901, passed in 1911, and raised in 1913. He separated from his crew. What follows is an amazing story of survival and heroism when the party was finally rescued and received on a ship captained by, yes, another Freemason, Luis Pardo.
You're making the Freemason Association, this explorer, that expedition, were all Freemasons and Freemason funded and all that sort of thing. Is it possible you're drawing the wrong conclusion from that? Have you considered the fact that back in the day, the Freemason lodges were mainly populated by people with resources, money, and so were able to fund these expeditions? Do you ever give that any consideration, that there are possible other explanations besides the ones that you are concluding?
The list goes on and on, full of these Freemason tricks, these Freemason lies. And it doesn't just end at the North and South Pole. You see, our history is littered with Freemasons and their lies. In all walks of life, in all areas of study. Of course, you should recognize that Charles Darwin was, of course, a Freemason.
There is no evidence that Charles Darwin was a Mason. His name does not appear in the rolls of any lodges. His father, I believe, was, and one of his sons joined and was made a member. But there's no evidence that Charles Darwin was. So asserting that he was is a little bit on the dishonest side, don't you think?
Imagine that one.
Thought your video was about the South Pole. What are you doing talking about Darwin?
What about Charles Lindbergh, right? First to fly across the Atlantic Ocean? Perhaps. How about the reason kidnapping is a federal crime? Well, this is his doing, and the reason it's now headed by the FBI. All of that as a result of the Lindbergh case. Yes, in one of the earliest hoaxes or false flags, do some research on Charles Lindbergh and his child being kidnapped. You'll see for yourself what kind of government ran this country in 1927. And maybe he was the first to cross the Atlantic solo. I can't say that he wasn't. But what I can say is the flight taking 33 hours seems a bit suspicious. And as the media reported, I'm very sure that during the flight across the ocean, through snow and sleet, he slept. You heard me. First solo flight from New York to London, the man slept. The feat had already been attempted 6 times, and all 6 men never made it. They all died. Yet Charles Lindbergh, the Freemason, he did it, while dodging storm clouds at 10,000 feet and dodging waves as low as 10 feet. He also found time to sleep. Not a worry. Yeah, those Masons are amazing indeed. It's like the Mason who went to the moon.
Oh, those Masons. What the hell does this have to do with the South Pole?
And on his first step off the limb, he pissed on the moon. And when he was ready to leave, the first time ever that it would be attempted, he said, "Roger, Houston, we're number 1 on the runway." Circuit breakers.
Was that an attempt at humor? Has to be.
So all in all, the deception here is becoming clear. Why would there be no footage of a 24-hour sun?
Yep, outright lie. There you go. Not only is there footage of a 24-hour sun, you've seen the footage of the 24-hour sun. You've made reference to a video of the 24-hour sun in your video. I don't even have to refute you. You refute yourself.
Where's the proof? Where's the proof that we live on a ball?
Oh, quit it. When you're given evidence, you'll just deny it and start talking about something else and scream Freemason.
Go look at images from 70 degrees north versus 70 degrees south. On a globe, they should be nearly identical, but you'll see that the south is a barren wasteland of ice and penguins, and the north is filled with trees, flowers, bushes, deer, bears, squirrels, elk, and everything else you can imagine.
Please provide evidence, or even links to evidence, that 2 physically disparate areas of the globe are required to be identical in climate.
Why do all of these South Pole and Antarctic flights and planes have no windows? Is there something they don't want people to see, perhaps?
Are you seriously asking why military planes are not designed for tourism? You can't be asking that.
Like, what's that sun doing? Why is it when you look at the Worldview 4 satellite images, which cover the United States in a pattern like this, stop in Antarctica like this, in a very circular pattern? Now, do I claim to know how it all works? Hell no.
I think a valid argument could be made that you don't know how any of it works. And since you indicate that you don't claim to know how it all works, how is it you feel no hesitation whatsoever in using these observations, which you clearly don't understand? You say you don't know how it works. How could you use them as evidence for anything?
I've been lied to my whole life, like all of you. It certainly could be something like this, or there could be a southern continent like this. There could be no outer ice wall, and more land north and south. There could be Shambhala. There could be the Tibetan tradition of White Island and the Eternal Land.
Okay, that's an awful lot of there could be's. So what you're saying is you have no idea what actually is, and yet at the same time you assert that this flat earth is. That's what you're saying. You don't know what is, but you know what is. Okay, that makes zero sense. It is self-contradictory, and I thank you for once again refuting yourself. You have saved me the trouble of doing so.
Universally through time, we've had legends that speak of Atlantis, or a sacred land located at the navel of the earth. Hindu mythology tells us about Meru as the mystical mountain of the earth's center. Like the Egyptians, the Indians conceived of a dwelling place of the gods known as Samaru. Hebrew legends speak of a place in the north called Luz. Many ancient lands speak of a first continent known as the imperishable sacred land, and is the most mysterious of the 7 continents. It is said to be located in the region of the North Pole. This sacred land is stated never to have shared the fate of the other continents, because it is the only one whose destiny it is to last from the beginning to the end. It is the cradle of the first man and the dwelling of the last divine mortal. Of this mysterious and sacred land very little can be said, except perhaps, according to a poetical expression in one of the commentaries, that the pole star has its watchful eye upon it. Buddhist texts say that Shambhala can be reached only by a long and difficult journey across a wilderness of deserts and mountains, and warn that only those who are called to have the necessary spiritual preparation will be able to find it. One text says that the kingdom of Shambhala is round, but it is usually depicted as an 8-petaled lotus blossom. The modern Theosophical tradition, too, recognizes that Shambhala is a real place. Shambhala, although no erudite Orientalist has yet succeeded in locating it geographically, is an actual land or district, the seat of the greatest brotherhood of spiritual adepts and their chiefs of earth today. From Shambhala at certain times in the history of the world, or more accurately, of our own fifth root race, come forth from the messengers or envoys of spiritual and intellectual work among men. It is surrounded by an akashic veil of invisibility, and an army of airplanes might fly over it and not see it. In it are gathered some of the most valuable records of the human race. There, surrounded by the greatest and most evolved human beings, the silent watcher of earth has his invisible abode. Meru, which was the Olympus of the Indians, is said to be situated in the center or navel of the earth. It was guarded by serpents, which watched the entrance to the realm of secret knowledge. According to tradition, it was the land of bliss of the earliest Vedic times. Occult teachings place it at the very center of the North Pole, pointing it out as the site of the first continent over the entire Earth. H.P. Blavatsky states that Meru is not the fabulous mountain in the navel or center of the Earth, but its roots and its foundations are in that navel, though it is in a far north itself. It connects it with the central land that never perishes. Occult teaching also corroborates the popular tradition, which asserts the existence of a fountain of life in the bowels of the earth and in the North Pole. It is the blood of the earth, the electromagnetic current, which circulates through all of the arteries, and which is said to be found stored in the navel of the earth. In the book Paradise Found, William Warren writes, "The earliest inhabitants of the Tigro-Euphrates basin located the center of the earth, not in their own midst, but in a far-off land of sacred associations where the holy house of God is situated, a land into the heart whereof man has not yet penetrated, a place underneath the overshadowing world tree." The Chaldean account of Genesis we read, "Human beings the great gods created, and in the earth the gods created for them a dwelling. In the midst of the earth they grew up and became great and increased in number."
All right, that's enough of that. It started out talking about the South Pole, and now we've slipped into mythology. I can only assume that either Jeranism is not in control of his drugs, or that he was bitten by Dubé and is somehow infected. Alright, I'm going to cut out a large chunk of just reciting ancient mythology. You should see this next section, though. I'm not quite sure what this is all about.
The primeval Eden is sometimes said to be at the center of the earth. According to the Hindu Karma Purana, an island called Shvetadipta, or White Island, lays in the northern sea.
Want to tell me what the hell that was? Does besides not paying attention to the videos that he includes in his own video, I can only assume he doesn't pay attention to his own videos. Is he that little concerned about his viewers that he would leave something like that example of horrid editing in the middle of a video? I find that disturbing, to say the least.
More recently, we have even more polar puzzles as far as the open polar sea. Many 19th century explorers believed that beyond the belt of pack ice at the perimeter of the Arctic Ocean there was an open polar sea, and possibly continental land as well. In 1827, an expedition led by Edward Parri ventured far north of Spitsbergen, over ice and along leads of open water. As they sledged north, the ice field became lighter and more fissured, and they eventually found themselves on the edge of what seemed to be a vast open polar sea, containing only a few scattered pieces of ice. While attempting to reach the North Pole in 1871 to 1873, two young Austrian explorers, Karl Weyprecht and Julius Payer, discovered the islands of Franz Josef Land and came to believe that they were the outliners of a continental landmass. Lieutenant George Washington DeLong hoped to find this land, and in 1879 he sailed in the Jeannette through the Bering Straits into the Arctic Ocean, planning to take advantage of the warm, north-flowing currents, which he believed would open a way through the pack ice. However, in June 1881, his ship sank in the pack ice northeast of the New Siberian Islands, a tragedy which DeLong and many of his men did not survive. Early Arctic explorers reported seeing birds and animals moving north as winter was setting in, instead of going south, and inferred that they were headed to a warm land that must lie in the north.
A warm land that no one has seen. And furthermore, if such a warm land did exist, what proof? You know what? Enough mythology. We're going to keep rolling, but if it's more of this crap, we're going to call it.
Parri once experienced a heavy fall of black dust in Greenland and thought it might be volcanic dust from the unexplored land to the north. In 1904, Dr. R.A. Harris of the U.S. Coast and Geodetic Survey published an article explaining why he believed that there had to be a large body of undiscovered land or shallow water in the polar basin northwest of Greenland.
All right, that's enough. There must be a land. There must be some magical place somewhere. The hell's all this have to do with the South Pole?
He argued that the prevailing currents seemed to indicate the deflection by an unknown large landmass lying in this approximate area, that the Eskimos living on the northern fringes of the Arctic Ocean had a tradition that a landmass existed to the north, and that the disruption of the tides north of Alaska indicated a moderating effect explainable only by intervening land.
So cut to the chase. Where's this land? Has it been seen? We've been all over the North Pole, and mind you, we're in a video that purports to be about the South Pole, but we've been all over the North Pole, and has any of this been seen? A lot of there must be, there must have been, there should be, there is, animals are walking north. Cut to the chase. You got any evidence, or you just running your mouth again?
Various Arctic explorers actually reported seeing land in the distance, though it should be noted that visibility can be poor, and mirages are very common in this area. Have you ever heard of Crocker Land? Another famous disappearing land was called Crocker Land, discovered by Parri. He saw it on the 24th of June 1906 from atop a 2,000-foot mountain situated behind Cape Colgate in northern Greenland. Parri says that through his binoculars he was able to make out, apparently a little more distinctly, the snow-clad summits of a distant land in the northwest above the ice horizon. Parri estimated that Crocker Land lay 120 miles from the northern coast of Axel Heiberg Island. How about Bradley Land?
All right, that's enough. We're talking about hypothetical islands and places and mythical lands that have nothing to do with the original premise of Jeranism's videos. What do you know? We've run out of falsified facts, so now we're just going to ramble on about mysticism, and hopefully that'll keep all the viewers sufficiently entertained that they'll just accept the whole thing. No, I don't think anybody watching our video has time for that crap, so if you really wanted to hear more of his ramblings, I apologize, but I'm cutting him out.
It's worth noting that according to some mystical and esoteric traditions, certain sacred areas of the earth are protected and concealed by the exercise of occult powers. Many people have asked about the 24-hour sun in the south. And while we know that there is no 24-hour sun,
Except for the 24-hour sun. You're probably right. There is none. Except for the 24-hour sun, there's no 24-hour sun. Liar.
we don't know that there's no 24-hour light. If you take a look at a couple of these images, you'll see that if we put anything past these guys, that would be a mistake. The ability to easily reflect or deflect the sunlight.
Mirrors. We light up the planet with mirrors. There's no end to this. Apparently, he can't get too stupid for his audience to the point that they would say that's stupid. Apparently, he can't. He's purporting that these people, who are obviously Freemasons, I guess, can use giant mirrors to produce this 24-hour light.
Or could it simply be an atmospheric effect? So do I know the answer? Nope.
Couldn't know the answer. You don't understand the question.
We need everybody doing the research. So the point is, we've been lied to. And step one should be pointing out the lies and exposing the liars. Then we will have people everywhere searching for the truth.
And, come on, tell us, where do we find this truth? No doubt not in the universities, obviously Freemason organizations, not through science, obviously just a big club. Where would we get this information? Let me guess. If we were to find a nice place in our parents' basement to stay 24 hours a day in front of a computer screen watching YouTube videos, that's where we'd get. Is that where we'd get it? Is that where the information comes from?
So is there an ice wall? Where does it expand to? Is there more land south like the Iron Republic? Or is there a paradise north like the Garden of Eden? The answers are there for us to find once we realize that we live in a lie constructed by Freemasons, Jesuits, Jews, and the priest class.
So, the answers are there, which means that you don't presently possess them, and yet you're absolutely sure of all the assertions you just made. You admit you don't have the answers, but you're sure of everything you just said. Okay. I don't see where that's even possible. You can't say, I don't know, and I know in the same sentence. You can't.
And now, add to the mix scientists, astronomers, physicists, and more. Not because they are hiding it purposely, but because they are too proud and too blind to look into what we're saying. You don't live on a ball flying magically through space.
No one says we do. We live on a planet that is of a similar form to all the other planets, that anyone with the personal motivation to go out and purchase a telescope can observe.
Be kind. Don't lie. Open your mind. There's truth inside.
Okay, don't lie. It's kind of shocking hearing those words come out of your mouth. And what's with the open your mind, there's truth inside? Didn't we tell you repeatedly how stupid that is? Truth and knowledge comes from outside your mind. What's in your mind is your imagination and the voices that tell you what to do, eh, Jeranism?